Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe. Very important.
Relax. It's time to expand your horizons. My name is Jake, and this is the Photoshop and Illustrator Unleashed podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about building good taste when it comes to design. And what I mean by that is being able to identify when something looks good and potentially why it looks good. If you've never tried designing anything before, or if you're new to design, it can be really intimidating and sometimes even pretty frustrating looking at other people's work that you know is awesome and really, really well done, but you don't understand why. You don't get why your work doesn't look as good as somebody else's. And I'm sure you realize that a big part of it is experience, and that is true. But even if you're new to design, there are steps you can take to start developing your critical eye, your ability to see what is making a design work well and maybe why yours isn't so much. So the first point I want to make is that getting really good at Illustrator and Photoshop and knowing those programs inside and out is not going to make you a better designer. Photoshop and Illustrator are just tools, just like any other tool, like pencil and paper. It's what you do with those tools that determines the quality of your work. There's a quote in the photography world that goes, "The best camera is the one that you have with you." And I think that's a great way to think about design as well. The point is, it doesn't matter how good your equipment is or the tools that you're using, it's how you use them. An inexperienced or unprofessional photographer might think that it takes thousands of dollars to buy the best camera and the best gear, the best lenses to take the best pictures, whereas a seasoned professional photographer can take amazing photographs regardless of the equipment that they're using. And sure, maybe that more expensive gear and camera body is going to produce better pictures, but that experienced photographer isn't going to be relying on those tools to produce the photographs that he knows are going to look well. There's more to it than that. Like how you frame your shot and how you position subjects within the picture. And that's exactly the same concept for design. You could use Photoshop and Illustrator to design all of your assets, and obviously that's the method that I suggest because that's why this course is called Photoshop and Illustrator Unleashed. But you could design everything out of physical materials if you wanted to. Stop motion animation uses actual objects in the real world to create a story. And there are cell animators that draw every single frame by hand one at a time. There's so many tools and techniques and methods for creating designs and animations that you've got to get it out of your head that Photoshop and Illustrator is the only way to go and that knowing those tools is going to make you a better designer. They're not. So if you have trouble identifying good design versus bad design, and I'm kind of saying that with air quotes because design is subjective, but there are clear differences between something that looks great and something that looks not that great. If seeing that kind of difference is hard for you, then you need to start making a habit of looking at design regularly. And if you're getting into motion design, you should also be looking at animations. Fortunately, this is an extremely easy thing to do with the internet. And if you don't even know where to begin with who to follow, we're going to give you a PDF today with some inspiration, so that'll kind of give you a kickstart into who to follow. There are so many different platforms for you to be able to follow and see amazing designers' work. Some of my favorites are Behance, which is run by Adobe, Pinterest, Dribbble, Instagram, and Vimeo. And each of these platforms have kind of a different vibe to them. So I'd encourage you to explore all of them so you can see how they're different and how they're similar. In my experience, Behance is more like a portfolio. You're going to find really high-end work there, and a lot of times you can find the breakdown or production process behind pieces. Obviously, you can follow different types of artists on Behance, but you can search through hashtags just like on Twitter or Instagram. So look through hashtags like illustration or graphic design or motion to discover new artists. Sometimes even big studios will post entire breakdowns of a piece that they created, from concept all the way to the final delivery. It's a really great way to see the process of some amazing pieces. Pinterest is another really great place for finding and discovering new artists. The reason I love Pinterest so much is just because of how easy it is to discover new people. You can very quickly search for something that you're interested in and then find a really amazing piece. Say it's a character illustration. And then you can see who pinned that or who that pin belongs to and check out their account. And say it's a really great character illustrator and you're really excited about the work that they're doing. chances are they probably have pretty good taste in character illustration, and that's why you're attracted to their work. Well, you can start following that person so that you're up to date on whenever they post new work. But on top of that, you can also see what kind of pins that they are pinning. You can see who they're following, and chances are, if the original artist you're following has good taste, then the artwork that they're repinning and the people that they're following on Pinterest are probably also going to have good taste. So it'll probably be worth checking out their art too. This is where Pinterest just becomes a rabbit hole that you can go down for hours and get completely submerged and lost in all of these amazing pieces of art. So just spend some time in Pinterest, searching for new types of art and finding new people to follow. There's such a wide variety of artwork on Pinterest that you can seriously spend hours and hours just digging through it all. Now, Dribbble was originally started as a way for people to share works in progress, but it's really turned into more of a portfolio type website. It is a little bit exclusive. You have to be invited in order to be able to post, but it's not that hard to find a Dribbble invite that somebody's giving away. You can find still graphics or animated GIFs. And a lot of animators have built huge followings on Dribbble by posting just simple animated GIFs. The design on Dribbble tends to be a lot more cartoony or vector-based, at least in my experience, especially compared to things like Pinterest and Behance. But just like Pinterest, you can follow certain people and you can see which posts they're liking and who they're following. And after you start following a bunch of different people, all of their posts will be showing up in your homepage, and every day you'll have a new feed to look through. Instagram has also become a really great place for artists. You can follow designers, illustrators, animators, and I love how personal the accounts are. I think that's what kind of differentiates Instagram from the others we've already talked about. It feels much more like a personal type of account. Now, of course, there are going to be artists who only post their artwork, but with incorporations like the stories feature, I feel like you can get to know an artist on a more personal level, on a day-to-day lifestyle level, that you don't necessarily get on other platforms. And finally, there's Vimeo, which is a video platform like YouTube, but it's made up of generally more artistic videos. And the motion design community is humongous on Vimeo. So definitely go create an account if you don't already have one and start following some of your favorite animators. And if you're at just the beginning stages, you may not know who to follow, so you should start checking out channels. Channels are great on Vimeo. There are ways for other people to kind of curate content so that you can get exposed to some really great content. So if you're not following anyone at this point, go check out the channel Wine After Coffee, and you can thank me later. That channel is filled to the brim with amazing content, and you can hop around from one user to the next, again looking at what that user has been liking, what they've been posting, and very quickly build a feed that's going to be constantly updated every time you look at the page. So those are some of my favorite places to discover and follow new artists. But how is doing that going to make you a better designer? Well, part of it is just absorbing all of the creativity that you're seeing. That's why I said you need to do it regularly. You need to immerse yourself in really great design on a regular basis so that you can be exposed to new things and think about things in a way that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of on your own. Compare your work to artists that you admire, people that you find, and see what they're doing differently than you are. Try to identify what it is about their artwork that's working so well that maybe yours hasn't succeeded so well at. And don't be afraid to imitate or even copy someone else's work to try to learn new techniques. Just don't go around claiming that you were the original creator, and maybe don't even post it. Now, I can tell you from personal experience that imitating somebody else can actually be pretty flattering. That's another saying, right? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Just be honest about it. There's a really great illustrator, designer, animator. Her name is Lynn Fritz, and I absolutely love her character illustration style. And recently, I've been trying to get into character illustration and trying to develop my own style, but in that process, I decided I wanted to make a character that looked a lot like Lynn Fritz's character style. So I created a character in her style, and then I added a little bit of motion to it, and I posted it to Instagram. But in the description of that post, I was completely honest. I tagged Lynn in that post and said, I absolutely love your work, and I'm not going to even pretend that this character is an original concept at all. I just loved her character illustration style, and I wanted to try to create a character in that style for myself. And because it was on Instagram and I tagged her, she actually saw it, she replied to it, and she was actually pretty flattered by it. And going through that process of trying to create a character in Lynn's style pushed me creatively. I learned some things about exaggerating body proportions and adding shading to the artwork, even though it was a 2D, pretty flat vector-looking character. So again, just don't be afraid to imitate things. But also, try new things, and try them all the time. See what works, what's interesting, and what doesn't work out so well. You can really learn a lot just from experimenting, and chances are you're not going to be that proud of the results of the experimentation, but you never know what you might learn from trying those new things. And a great way to experiment and try new things is to add limitations to your own projects. So some examples of that might be using limited color palettes, like picking 3 or even just 2 colors and seeing what you can do with just those colors. Maybe try doing an illustration with no texture, just flat colors. You could try using just simple geometry to create a piece of art. Or say that you can't use any right angles in this particular design. Creating these little limitations or rules for your designs can really produce some interesting results. And sometimes they can even be a huge help because it'll keep you focused and not allow you to go outside the boundaries of these rules that you've set up. That can actually really help you focus your design sometimes. And I know that I said you might not be that proud of these kind of experimentations, but one of the best things you can do to start developing better taste is to start sharing your work. Put it out there. Create an Instagram account and put yourself out there. Join the community and don't be afraid to ask for critique. You'll have to accept the fact that people are going to see your experimentations and that even if it isn't maybe that great, ask other people what they think about it. Open yourself up a little bit and allow yourself to be more vulnerable with your artwork. That might sound like I'm making light of this entire concept, but I realize just how hard it is to put yourself out there like that. But it really is one of the best ways to grow as an artist. Because not only are you going to be getting feedback from other people, but you're going to be constantly pushing yourself to put out something better the next time. And if you're constantly looking through other people's amazing art, and you're constantly putting out your own art and pushing yourself to become better, you're going to see a natural growth in your design ability. And there's no time like the present. So if you don't have an Instagram account yet, go ahead and get one and tag me at JakeInMotion. I'm also on Dribbble, on Pinterest, everywhere. Just tag me and I will follow you back. And that way all of us can start following each other's work, discovering new artists, getting inspired, and putting our own work into the community. And after all of that, even if you're following really amazing artists and you're starting to make your own artwork and you just feel like you're not getting anywhere, don't forget that this is just a fundamentals course on these 2 tools, Photoshop and Illustrator. And from here, you can go on and learn how to be a better designer, how to use these tools to make better designs. And there are other resources and even School of Motion courses that you can take after this one to help you develop your design abilities using the tools that you're learning in this course. Are you pumped? I hope so. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.